Hi, this is Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events, and we're going to. Hi, this is Tracy Stuckrath, and I'm with Thrive Meetings and Events, and we are on day one of the. Oh my God, John, I don't even know. Evolving. So reset, stop. Hi, this is Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events, and we are on day one of the Evolving Leadership and Workplace Culture Summit. And I'm excited for our next guest of the summit, John Chen out of Seattle, Washington. Hi, John. I just combined both of your names. Wow, that's great. John is the extreme leader of Geoteaming. He climbs mountains, he walks on fire, he swims with dolphins in the wild, and he snowboards out of helicopters. Wow, very good. That's exactly what I said. He's like Marky Mark, right? He goes out of helicopters onto the snowboard. Yo. So he's with us today to talk about virtual team building. And yes, it can happen. And yes, he has been doing it for, what did we say, 35 years? 35 years. Okay, 35 years ago it was Wang. So please tell me more.
Well, you better explain Wang here in just a second.
That's true, Wang.
She's talking about mini computers, people. Mini computers, right? This is like a large a shared computer. You had a terminal.
Black with green lettering and all that stuff.
Yeah, for those of you. We're going to talk about some old school technology too, as well as all the new school. How about that, Tracy?
That sounds really good. But before we delve into all of that, I do need to remind people, we are actually, even though this conversation is actually pre-recorded, we are going to be live tweeting while you're watching this. So during the hour of 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to be tweeting. Elizabeth Glau, John, and I will be tweeting with the hashtag lead culture. So go tweet. We're going to ask you questions, maybe, but tweet us and we'll answer questions for you while you're watching this. So, all right, John, on to virtual team building.
See, now, Tracy, in virtual team building, one of the things that we've actually perfected is the ability to clone. So I'm actually live with you here now, right? And I'm live tweeting on Twitter at the same time.
You're doing it right now as well?
We're just completely live. So watch this. Okay, Tracy. So we're going to do just a couple things here while I tell you a little bit about myself, but we have some video openers that we do, right? And so have you ever heard of the term matching and mirroring, Tracy?
Only from you, and I think it just went like this.
So matching and mirroring is a way for people to get in rapport, meaning that, people like themselves. So basically, and if you kind of get the group to do the same thing at the same time, you can actually get a group in rapport and they can actually have higher teamwork, right? Oh. So here, we're going to do just a couple easy ones, right? Watch this. So, and if you're watching this video, follow along. Do it because I'm watching you. I'm on live tweet. I'm on live Twitter too. Like I can see you. Okay, so these are easy ones, Tracy's. The first one is a head nod, saying, yeah, John, he's been in the business. He's a smart guy. He's won a few awards. He wrote a book. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so now the next one is let's do a thumbs up. Going thumbs up. Yeah. Hey, I can hear you on the audio. That's great. You're responding to me. Okay, great. Let's do another one. It's so hard. We haven't been able to touch each other, but let's do a first one. High five. Put your right hand up, and now high five the camera. All right, great. Hey, thank you so much for you in California and Washington and Texas. Okay, so the last one is, we have these shirts that say I miss, and people are filling in the blank, and I filled in my blank with hugs, right? Don't you miss real hugs, Tracy?
Oh, I totally do. Yes.
Okay, so put your arms up and let's do virtual hug.
That's so cool.
That feels good, Tracy. I feel better.
I do too.
Okay. So great. And so if you like any of these things or have any ideas, hey, let's do some networking. You're going to get to know a little bit about me, but I would like to get to know a little bit about you. And I'm going to be responding to you on Twitter, right? So if you hit up Twitter and you hit hashtag lead culture, LEAD CULTURE, lead culture. Let's do some chat networking, right? I'm going to chat my LinkedIn profile so that you guys, if you want to learn a little bit about me or connect with me, you can do that there. Tracy's going to do it. Elizabeth's going to do it. You get a chat and you get a chat and you get a chat. And so, chat something. If you don't want to chat your LinkedIn profile, just chat something about you, where you're calling in from or whatever. So about me, I'm going to do the pre-corona version of me, which is, I was born in Stockton, California. I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, California. There, I really wanted to be a professional skateboarder, but my left ACL met an untimely demise when somebody slipped on a rainy thing and fell across my knee. And that was the end of my skateboarding career. I almost went pro. By the way, have you ever seen the movie Dogtown and Z-Boys on Netflix or any streaming service?
No.
It's about revolution, okay? And that's what I love about my meeting industry friends, right? We're here to change stuff. And Dogtown and Z-Boys was about a skateboard team that were surfers that came in and completely changed the landscape of skateboarding. And I was actually 3 teams after that. I was actually a sponsored amateur skateboarder, right? Had my knee not gone. Yeah, I might actually still be professionally skateboarding or hang around with Tony. I actually got to hang out with Tony Hawk at a program.
Very cool.
But my knee hit an untimely demise. I was in college. And so I'm like, well, now what am I going to do? Right. So I actually went into computer science. So I got a computer science degree. I was the president for the Association of Computing Machinery and Engineering Student Council. This is actually where I first learned to love associations, right? Associations are so cool, a collection of like-minded people gathering. I didn't realize until, later how big the association business is. But so I did that with computer science, and that led me here to where I live now in Seattle. I interviewed and I got a job at Microsoft, that little software company across the lake. And I was there for 10 years. I got 2 US patents. I helped ship 10 projects. These are actually the 2 US patents right here.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. So I actually did some stuff. And one of the programs I worked on was Microsoft Exchange, which is actually one of the first client server emails. And that would probably go,
wow.
Right? Yeah. And so, but that program went on to sell over 200 million client licenses and counting.
Wow.
And so it's kind of cool in software when you can have the impact and you're actually impacting 200 million people. I mean, that's like about 3/4 of the United States' entire population, 200 million. So
wow.
So
well, and yet you don't think about it, even like with Google and all of these things right now. I mean, how many people do they? And you don't really think about that. You just think about it, what you're doing with it, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool.
I recently did the stats because we're going to talk about virtual teams in a second, but did you know that Zoom went from 10 million users to over 340 million users in 2 months?
Wow, that's amazing.
And 340 million is greater than the population of the United States.
That's amazing.
And don't you imagine there'd be problems if you moved a whole country in 2 months? I mean, we do move-ins that for like maybe 2,000 and it's crazy.
Right.
But imagine 340 million. So,
wow, that's amazing.
So the last part of the story really gets to this, which is I had this great thing, Tracy, a saying in my life, and it said, I always knew I was supposed to do something, but I don't know what it is. And this is the power of coaches. Hopefully some of you have friends that are coaches or using coaches. I had an executive coach, and he's the only person in my lifetime who ever said, give me a weekend and I'll tell you exactly what it is.
What?
So I paid some money and I went to Huntington Beach, California. Remember when we used to be able to travel and touch each other?
Yes.
And I spent a weekend with this guy and I wrote the entire business plan for my company called Geoteaming. It was called Playtime Incorporated originally, but now it's called Geoteaming. And it was what I affectionately call the Jerry Maguire experience. Do you remember Jerry Maguire when he has like this? He has a summary and he gives it all to all the people, slow clap, and then they're like, I give him a week, right?
Right, exactly.
But no, I sent it to my friends and families and I said, this is what I'm going to do. It took me 2.5 years to leave Microsoft. I left in 1999, and in 2000, after a break, I started this company full time. And so since then, again, the company started in 1997. So that's how I get to, this is my 23rd year of professional team building. Number one, as a small business, I'm still here.
Woohoo! Yay!
And number two is that I've conducted over 2,100 team building programs around the world: Barcelona, Taiwan, Shanghai, Marseille, France, Saudi Arabia, Vancouver, Mexico, and
you were sitting in Seattle, or you were in those cities?
I was in. I told you this is pre-corona. This is when I could actually fly.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So I've been to all of those locations and I've helped people team build. And I can now authentically say from my experience that the problems of teams and cross-team collaboration are universal. They happen in every country, every city. It's a human quality that we have challenges with team and cross-team collaboration. So there you go. History in a box.
Okay. All right. Awesome. That is a little bit more dramatic than mine, but that's good. And everybody's history is good, and it adds so much more to team building as well. You can bring yourself. The point of team building is to bring yourself, I would think, right?
Well, the point of team building to me is a little bit like this. I'm going to actually get down to the financial piece, which is this.
Okay.
As a manager, your team already got paid.
Right.
So the only way to get more out of your team as a manager is to get your team, right, to perform complex tests in less time and be more efficient and operate better as a team. That's it.
Yeah. That
that's
makes sense. Okay. So in this new post-COVID, what have you been doing? Or post-COVID or the middle of COVID, right? We're still in the middle of it. We haven't gone back to virtual meeting or to real live meetings. We're still in this virtual world. And while we're tweeting live, while you're watching this, we're virtual at the same time. So how have you been transitioning from live team building to virtual team building?
Oh, that's a great question. Hey, Elizabeth, thank you so much for that tweet too. I'm going to reply to you in just a second. So while I'm talking to, why don't you tweet your ideas about that you have to help virtual teams. Again, tweet on #LeagueCulture, and I will add additional ideas that I couldn't say here for whatever reason. We either ran out of time or I got a clock running on me. All right. Anyways, what am I doing to help virtual teams? I've been practicing virtual team building now for 35 years.
Wow.
And I realized that because I was team building as early as when two of us were on a CPM computer. You don't even know what this is. 2 floppy disks. Like this is a pre-Apple computer. That's like a long time ago.
The floppy disk one, yes, those big ones.
Oh yeah, the big 5 1/4.
Yes.
Yeah, we even had the big ones. And so, but two of us would play a game together, and it was a team thing, right? I was on Prodigy, right? Tracy, do you remember Prodigy?
No, I told you I only remember Wang computer systems.
But you remember AOL, right?
I do remember AOL, and I do remember using an Apple computer when I was in 11th grade, and I lived in Japan. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, if you know Prodigy or actually on Prodigy, hit me up on in the Twitter #LeadCulture, and we'll see how many old technology we can talk about. But no, the whole point about this is all through that time, I was using technology to build teams. When I was in college, I built a whole club. I quadrupled the membership of the Association of Computer Machinery because I got a script, and then I started advertising on all the boards, right? The networking boards, and I built a team. And so actually I quadrupled membership, and we actually put a team together that competed for the first time. And we actually solved a problem that UCLA and Caltech could not solve.
Wow.
Right? From Santa Barbara, cool. Dude, right?
Hey, isn't there a movie about you then?
Oh, there should be. Yeah, I'm waiting on that. Oh yeah, I have more movie stuff later. Anyways, so as my career went on and I started this company, I was the first to go to another association meeting, right? The Association of Experiential Education. That's what I fell in love with, learning by doing. This is why I'm trying to get you to do stuff, because if you sit here passively and watch this webinar for 50 minutes or whatever it is, you're not going to do anything different. And why bother, right? Go take the 50 minutes and go take an outdoor walk. But if you're tweeting with me and I'm replying back to you and you learn something, and more importantly, you do something, right? That's where experiential education motivated me to do many things that I would not have done. And so I was one of the first, right? But now remember, experiential education was old school team building. Now, if I say old school team building, Tracy, what do you think of? What do you envision or what do you see?
That we're out on a tennis court bouncing balls and, playing dodgeball or, something, putting eggs on a spoon and running down the hall and trying to pass them off. Yes.
And these are the people, the other part that I have too is ropes courses, right? Have you ever been to a ropes course?
Yes, yeah. I have.
That's what a lot of times people go like virtual team or team building and they go, trust fall ropes course, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And all these things can be really valuable if they're facilitated correctly. But I was the first to bring technology to this meeting. 20 years ago, right? Like year 2000, we brought 2 laptops, stuck webcams on them before they were built in, plugged them into a private network, and separated people in the rooms. And we had people at this conference. It was a happy hour. So we were like just doing a social experiment, but we had over 30 people come in pairs, talk to each other and tell each other stories for just 10 minutes. So if I tell you a story for 5 minutes, you tell me a story for 5 minutes. We measured their trust level before they went in and before and after they came out. And the trust level on average went up 20%. 20% just for telling stories to each other online by video. And that's when the light bulb went on and said, virtual team building is possible.
That's pretty cool. So they were in separate rooms talking to each other like you and I are across this country, because I'm in North Carolina and you're in Seattle. But this was 20 years ago?
And we were too early.
I would say so, yeah.
Me and a pioneer in the experiential education field, Dr. Simon Priest, who's been my mentor since I started, has some of the best science behind why experiential education works, not just saying it feels good. And we formed a company called Virtual Teamworks, and we showed a lot of companies and nobody wanted to buy. But guess what, Tracy?
What?
Last month, people suddenly got really interested.
But why? Why would they suddenly get interested, John?
What I love to say is that I'm going to be the greatest 35-year overnight success you ever met. Oh man.
Well, that's pretty cool. So I'm an HR manager, or I'm a manager in general, right?
Yeah.
And I've got teams, all over the world right now, and what is the easiest thing for me to do to virtually bring them together? Because I watch the Today Show every morning, and they're showing all these people on Zoom doing different things. And actually one guy was teaching people how to do the hula dance. And he said the one challenge that he had, actually this goes back to your mirroring. He's like, none of them were in sync, because they're all learning. And he's like, I also couldn't correct them by touching their shoulders or doing whatever. But what can I as a manager, or our listeners here, or as a manager, what's an easiest thing to do for their virtual teams?
Well, hey, for you out there, I see you. You're falling asleep. Come back here. Get on your Twitter. Jeez, come on. Right? It's probably Courtney. Courtney Stanley's like, no. James Spellis is like this. Give me more, John. Give me more. And
Hi,
I'm going to give a shout out to Corbin Ball. Look, these are 3 MPI awards, and one of them has Corbin Ball's name on it, man.
Oh,
and
awesome.
I got to do a session with James and Corbin, and man, it was just like jazz, except we were in 3 different places. Amazing.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
What I want to do is do 2 things right here. I want you to tweet your best virtual team building practices in Twitter, #lead culture. And for those who are counterculture, let me just tell you this too, because Tracy, right? Have you experienced the Zoom burnout or the video burnout yet?
Very much so. Yes.
I mean, after 8 hours a day, we don't experience it in face-to-face because it's natural, right? And we were so used to it. But there's always something that's just a little bit off that makes our brain hurt, right? It makes our brain hurt. And so these are things that you can do to really help prevent that. So if you have Zoom burnout, like post some experiences, or there's a lot of research that's actually out there now. People are doing a lot of research around it. So here are the best things. Now, the second part around it is 80% of the things here like this are people throw up a 60 minutes of video and then talk over it, and then no interaction, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's 80%. So if you want to be in the top 20%, all you have to do is do this. Like, we're live tweeting like right now. So you say something, I'm going to reply to it, right? And that one piece goes, oh, John's actually here. He's actually engaged. He's here to help me. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pay attention more. So here are the top things that I've seen. The first number 1 thing I've seen is people talking over each other. people talking over each other. So wait, Tracy, have you ever been to a Zoom meeting that was totally out of control where people are talking over and you never heard anybody? Because, you know, Zoom doesn't really yet have the capability to do totally synchronous audio, right?
Right. Actually, that was with my sorority sisters from college just 3 weeks ago when we all got on Zoom for the first time together. Yes.
So one of the first things to teach is what we call go ahead caller, right? So if you get into a situation like that, elect somebody, right, to be the speaking facilitator. And what I like to say is air traffic control, right, for this space, video or Zoom or whatever you want. And yeah, that's right. And you can strike the post. And so go ahead caller just does this, right? So, hey, if you want to speak, I give two protocols. One, if you're on video, raise your hand. So raise your hand. Tracy, raise your hand. Elizabeth, raise your hand. Freda, raise your hand. Tom, raise your hand. Okay, so we'll go like that. And then if I'm the facilitator, I say, go ahead, Tracy. And so let's both raise our hands, right? So go. Okay, okay, first Tracy, then John. Okay, and so go ahead, Tracy. So now Tracy, just introduce yourself again.
I'm Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events in New Bern, North Carolina.
Thanks, Tracy. And now John. Hi, I'm John Chen, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. So that's all it is, right? Is that we build a little protocol to just kind of arrange how people are speaking, and it really increases the efficiency of the meeting. It's like, remember the old talking stick, right?
Yes.
You have to have it in
Yes.
Zoom because it doesn't work, right?
Right.
And
that makes sense.
Yep. So the next one that's here is in the back channel chat. This is what we've been doing with you with Twitter, right? Twitter right now is the back channel. So you can't talk over, like if we had you on Zoom and you were like having a sidebar conversation with Elizabeth, who loves to talk, by the way, their voices come out as loud as we are. And so it's not a sidebar, it's somebody transmitting over you. And so you have to find a channel such as a chat window or Twitter as the back channel and use that to engage people. This is why I purposely designed these things in here and why I'm live chatting with you is that somebody has to watch it, Tracy. Somebody has to reply. Yep. Otherwise, there's nothing worse than hitting a chat room. And I hit all the chat rooms in everybody else's webinar because I want to see, is somebody paying attention?
Yeah, and I was in one a couple days ago, and one of the speakers is like, "Yeah, I answered the questions in there," and the facilitator is like, "Oh, I didn't even see them." So he just went ahead and answered them instead of the facilitator. So yeah, so I think you have to have somebody else doing that because I can't do both things even though I think I can. It's too hard.
Which leads me to a quote that came in my last class from a guy named Gil. He runs a website called positivechutzpah.com, right? Coolest name I've seen in a while. And he said this, his quote is, "Don't Zoom alone." And what I mean by that is if you are producing a meeting, right, that has interactive live elements around it. Now, I used to run them all myself, and I can do it. But what suffers is I have to break connection with you if you're in my meeting to turn away and look at some other screen or hit at some other computer, right? And if I do this right now, how connected do you feel to me now?
I don't, because your voice also went away.
Yeah, so, right?
Yeah.
I moved from my mic. So everything, auditorially, physically, my body language all moves away, all right? And so with that, if don't Zoom alone means that I now use a producer. I now have somebody running the text window. I have somebody who can mute people. I have somebody who can do all these other things. And what it allows me to do is stay focused with you now, because I used to have to turn and do all these things, but now I know she's doing it and I can ask her questions. Like if we had a 25-person room, I'm like, okay, who hasn't gone yet? Oh, Elizabeth hasn't spoken. Okay, let's make sure and go to Elizabeth. Which leads me to my other tip. This is a great tip. Have you ever seen a participation map?
No. You mean like a mind mapping thing?
Kind of. So what we do is either on a spreadsheet style program, or you can print it out on paper. As the meeting participants come in, you write their name, and then you can write time bars or something on the top. And so as they speak, you can write a little note or even just a checkbox. And the key for this is you want engagement, right?
Right.
Have you ever been to that meeting where that one person talked 80% of the time? It's not fun. It's not. No.
You're like, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they have to be like an amazing professional speaker like Tom Singer for me to want to listen to them 80% of the time, but most of us are not that good. So the participation map will show you patterns like people who talk too much. And then you can go like, oh, well, that's great, Tracy. Let's go to Elizabeth, right? Who we haven't heard from yet. So you as a facilitator can guide that away and you make the experience better for everybody. And if Elizabeth turned into an introvert, right, and she hasn't talked for 48 of the 50 minutes, you can make sure, hey, let's just check in with Tracy and let's see if she has anything to say. We actually have a rule that you know, as an introvert, you can, or as a person, you could just say pass, you know, so that you had the opportunity to speak, but you gave it up because either you didn't have anything to contribute or you didn't want to waste any of the time of the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, and actually this is a random question from just what you just said, which then means that all my other questions weren't random, but they kind of are. I mean, for introverts, this has got to be kind of hard too, you know, managing being on Zoom, because the other thing too is that you're looking at yourself talk all the time, unless you take that off. So how do you handle introverts in virtual team building besides what you just said?
So I'll do this section specifically for introverts.
Okay.
Number one, I know you hate the camera. I'm sorry. I can tell you, if you turn on the camera, people will feel more connected to you, and you might feel more connected to people. Because, I mean, let's just do this for half a second, Tracy.
Okay.
Now, let me give you the next idea, and you tell me how you feel after it. The next thing is why I teach people that back channel chat room is for introverts too, right? Extroverts can just like think out loud in the chat room, and that's cool. But introverts, they consume all this video, auditory, visual information, and it's overwhelming. But the key is quite often the introvert person processes all the information, and quite often they have the right answer to your team problem. And so they can use the chat room to get it out if they don't want to speak or take the time to do it. Now,
interesting.
Now tell me, Tracy, about your experience about listening to me, but with my video off.
Well, it was weird because it's just you and me. I'm just looking at myself, and I didn't like that. I mean, I have you in my head, which is a good thing. But it's also, because, you know, if you had 20 people, you would be looking at a bunch of different people, but it's also hard to connect with that voice because you don't see it. And which, okay, I'm going to bring up a whole nother thing of inclusion is individuals who are visually impaired and hard of hearing in this virtual reality world. Did you see the story about the guy at Trader Joe's who's deaf, and everybody's wearing masks and he reads lips? And so he took his Trader Joe's t-shirt and wrote, "I'm deaf, please tap me on the shoulder." And so that he could then they could communicate, because he can't hear anybody talking to him, but he wrote it on the front of his shirt and the back of his shirt. And I thought that was ingenious. And the other person who also created the mask that has clear on it so that she could read lips. So I think these are great solutions that are coming from this COVID-19, but I think it also plays into our team building aspects of things. Well,
you know, we have to give a shout out to our good friend Joan Eisenstadt on this topic. You know that.
Yes.
You know, and I've gotten a chance to really become friends with Joan, and she introduced me to Cricket Park. She knows a friend who actually wrote the initial ADA guidelines.
Oh,
Isn't that
wow.
cool?
That is
I know.
very cool. Yeah.
I mean, you have this opportunity to put things in and out, and it actually got passed. In America, you know, that's an amazing feat, right?
Right, exactly, okay. Yeah.
So what I've been teaching too is I think that people have to think about a new piece of diversity and inclusion. And by the way, I care a lot about diversity and inclusion in meetings and in my own personal life. And I teach a lot around it, especially in team building, right? Because diversity and inclusion actually are key factors for teams being able to be high performing teams. So, but now there's a new dimension, right? So there's already enough dimensions. There's race and gender and orientation and all these other things. But
food allergies.
Allergies, yeah. I'm on gluten. Look at me. I'm already blowing up because I had gluten yesterday. Okay, so, but there's a new dimension, and it's this technology dimension, right? So it's like if I calling with a phone, I'm having a totally different experience than if I'm calling here on video. I mean, you're missing all this information. Look, I like this. Head nods are actually a valuable piece of information, right? Your hands up, like this is like, you can start to feel this, in this, which is like, oh yeah, I totally, this is, by the way, this is sign language for applause. So yeah, put your hands up, try it. Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome.
This is sign language for applause. So that's why we use it. So you don't have to unmute. So if you have a big meeting, but you want to applause, you teach your group this, right?
That's so cool.
And so that's what I think you have to do, is you have to look for that. I mean, in the rural parts, there are definitely some rural parts who I've talked to libraries and other people, they don't have internet far out in the country, and it is a huge detriment to their experience, right? Like some of them only have a phone line. And so you have to do what you can with that. And if you're the facilitator of a meeting, you have to make sure and include that. There's nothing worse than saying, I'm using the best technology I have, a phone, and I'm being extraordinarily excluded. Here, can I give you a great example, Tracy?
Sure.
We do a very simple team building initiative. One of the aspects we teach is that virtual teams to succeed need rhythm. Do you know what I mean by rhythm? Or have you ever seen a team in rhythm? Like if I say a team that is a winning team, what do you think about, Tracy?
They're in sync. They kind of mesh well with each other.
Like in a meeting planning part, right, where people even don't talk to each other, but like a meeting planner where you're setting up for the meeting and people move out of the way for other people without talking. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, yes. That's a team that has rhythm is in sync. Teams that don't have rhythm in sync, like they're bashing into each other and they're breaking stuff, and we've all been at that meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So this is around the rhythm. Oh yeah. So exclusion, right? We do a team building initiative, and all we do is that we're trying to get a group of people to chat between A to Z, and nobody can do all the letters. So for instance, you and I would have to alternate, right? And in 6 people, you have to figure out how to use everybody. So we did it with a group with 6 people, and 3 of them figured it out. These were all business owners. 3 of them figured it out, but the other 3 were kind of missing on the technology. Right? Some of them were just not as comfortable yet with Zoom. And so the 3 people charged ahead, right? But they didn't get the acceptance of the other 3 people. So the 3 people were actually a pretty decent performing team. They completed the challenge, but at the end of it, I checked in with the other 3 people, and the other 3 people were like, I don't even know what happened. What are we doing?
There are so many meetings that I've had that experience in, and I'm sure other people have too, because people charge forward.
And they don't check, right?
Right.
And I've seen this solution work. There's a whole group of 12 that agreed, hey, let's just delegate it to 2 people. Let's delegate it to Tracy and John. Let them do it. And they asked each other, because I'm trying to stay facilitator, I'm trying to stay out to see how they solve it. And they go, does everyone agree? And they actually got a thumbs up in every window, and then they let them 2 do it, and they actually got one of the 3rd fastest times. Now, the original group, right, and the business owners, it led to an extraordinarily deep conversation about inclusion and exclusion.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. And the people who were excluded, let's validate your feelings. And they said, have you ever felt excluded at a meeting, right? And they were like, oh yeah, let's talk about pre-corona being excluded, let alone current corona, right? And it showed why it's so important that if you want a high-performing team, that you need to look at inclusion. And so that leads me to my last tip here about best virtual team practices. Tracy, right? Tracy, do you want engagement in this meeting and all your meetings?
I totally do. Yeah.
Okay. If you want engagement, engage. That's it. Right? Don't have a meeting and throw up a slide and talk for 60 minutes. Don't even let the person who's doing it unless it's a presentation. And if it's a presentation, make it a video so people can watch it off time and not hear live, right? With a bunch of people waiting, right? Engage. The first thing you should do is engage. So I make sure during my team building courses, I meet everyone, I talk to everyone. I log in 30 minutes early, because I believe the meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting sometimes is the most important meeting. And speaking back to introverts, I had a library introvert who called in early, and 18 minutes into just us talking around, before my class even started, he goes, well, I just want to self-admit that I'm a huge introvert, and I feel more comfortable in this meeting than in any meeting I've had since coronavirus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So those are the easy
fantastic.
things to do.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, caller, which is air traffic control. Light up the chat. Come on, you people, tweet something. Just tweet me anything. That's fine.
Lead culture is the hashtag.
Hashtag lead culture, LEADCULTRE, right? Don't Zoom alone, right? Get help if you're actually producing a big meeting. And if you want engagement, engage. Talk to your people. Can I add the bonus one, Tracy?
Sure.
In team building, and I've been taught, and it works here in virtual team building too, is a very cool concept called let the inmates run the asylum.
What do you mean by that?
Let the inmates run the asylum is like an initiative in A to Z, or like in polling, right? I have sometimes done polling, and I tell people, I give them an example. Hey, give me a yes/no question, right? So Tracy, just give me any yes/no question.
Did you brush your teeth this morning?
Perfect. So I tell people chat yes or no questions like that. So then I start reading them, and either people visually can do it or they can find like the yes, no buttons here on Zoom or wherever. And I just start asking questions like that. So, hey, did you guys brush your teeth this morning? If you did, raise your hand. So raise your hand. I forgot. I was drinking coffee. So, and sometimes people get really, really interesting questions, right? What was the other one that was really fascinating? Or are you quarantined with 2 or more people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to think about that. Yeah.
But the number of people that were quarantined solo in the call that I had was over 80%. And I was like, oh, wow.
They totally need to be included in these conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
that's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I know when I'm at my house for a week alone, you can get kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, and I lived by myself for 22 years, and then I moved to go house sit for friends, and I was living with their mom, and then other people came home, and so and at one point there were 8 people in the house, and I'm like, oh my God. And now I live with my parents, and it's been a year, and I'm thankful that I live with my parents during this time, because I would have been in an apartment by myself. Yeah.
So going back to this practice too, let the inmates run the asylum is exactly this, right? Which is give control back to your users, because they immediately engage, right? I'm a professional. I've been online for a long time, but let me tell you, one of my friends actually was running a yard stream, right? Yard stream is like a new rebroadcaster. So you're live streaming on a bunch of different places. And I chatted him a question, right? Hey, can you tell me a story about using these tools that you're talking about? And he's talking about commanding fear, right? He's actually a performance coach for the Portland Trailblazers. And in yard stream, he can pop my question up and it says, hey, this is John, my icon on Facebook asked this question. He started answering my question. Do you think I cut his feet off? Nope.
No.
Right? Because I started sharing it. I'm like, oh my God, he's answering my question. This is so cool, right?
You totally want to do that when people do that to you. Yeah.
Like surprise and delight. This is from Monica Cornetti, who's an expert in gamification. And she gave me this real tip, which is surprise and delight. If you haven't seen it, go watch the Hamilton Zoom where this fan came in and every Zoom window is all the performers from Hamilton singing her favorite song. She's like crying with delight. Yep. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen.
That's the one that John Krasinski did, right?
Yes.
That was so cool. He's done some really cool ones. He actually did some this past weekend, the latest episode, and he had people send in their recipes and they're talking about it. And one, he got these Martha Stewart and some other Guy Ferrari, I think that's right.
Guy Ferrari.
Make the recipes these people sent in. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And that's what I think, this is what Corona Land has given us, right? Coronaville is it's given us unlimited creativity, all right? And because we have the time, we have this big break, right? And so that leads me to this theory. Fail faster, Tracy. Fail faster, right? You can try all sorts of stuff, right? And do it, because only in that failing are you going to figure out what works in this new environment. And that's what I love about us as humans, is that we are really, truly infinitely creative. Everyone's figuring out a way through, right?
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, and if, you know, if you have the extra capacity, you're finding ways to help people. In fact, that's where I find my personal purpose in this time. By teaching people virtual team building, it is literally the bright spot of my day, right? Oh, here, wait, I got one more hand motion for you. Ready, Tracy? Put your hands on your head like this. Okay, ready? Blow your mind. If anything happens that I say during this call that blows your mind, just blow your mind. Just do it on camera,
Oh
right?
my
Nobody's
gosh.
watching. You're fine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, and you said something about failing, and this is from Sarah Blakely so long ago. When she
Mm,
first started public speaking,
mm.
and she said every day she came home from school, she and her brother, her dad asked them what they failed at, because he goes, you don't learn unless you fail, because you're not trying unless you fail. And I think that, I mean, I heard that 20 years ago, and I just think it's a really good piece of advice, because if you don't fail, you're not trying. And I think we can do that. And we're all guilty of not trying. So, for whatever reason, and, let's just do it. So
Tracy, you love my other friend's quotes. So I have my very good friend, Jimbo Clark, who's in Taiwan, who has a really cool, one of the coolest 60-minute webinars I've ever seen. It's hackyourbox.com. But he said this: delivery is the greatest barrier to creativity and collaboration. Do you know what I mean?
Delivery is the greatest barrier to collaboration and delivery.
And creativity.
And creativity. Yeah.
What I meant by that is, like, sometimes, Tracy, you and I don't get creative because if we're getting paid to deliver, we have to do the stuff we know, and we have to focus on that because we're getting paid to do it. But right now, because all this stuff got cleared off the slate, it's like people are collaborating and people are doing some incredibly creative stuff. And if you're not taking advantage of this opportunity, do it now. That's what I'm telling you. Do it now. Tweet it. If you're doing something cool and creative, hit the tweet, hit the Twitter right now, #lead culture, and share the cool stuff that you're doing, man.
Yeah. And or the cool stuff that you've seen, because the more we share those things, the more we can all participate in them as well. Agreed. So we've got like 10 more minutes on my clock. Yep. What else can you do virtually to build teams?
Well, we do a number of real team building initiatives. So some of the things I've been showing you are kind of just icebreakers, or openers, and things like that. We do more complex stuff. So as a team, what I love to say is foundation is that you can build upon each skill. So you can actually add new technology, and also on top of the new technology, you can add new important team factors. So teams can handle bigger challenges, right? More complex stuff, things that take 10, 15, 20 minutes to finish, to solve, as opposed to 5 and 10. We also have done digital escape rooms. So we actually get on Zoom here, but you can also log into an app on a phone, and we can even put people in breakouts, right? Where 6 to 8 people are solving a digital escape room. I'm about to finish one solely on coronavirus facts, which a lot of people, by the way, get wrong. These are all from the CDC website, right? And who's called the actual entire CDC website? Well, I had to design this game. But people miss stuff inside of there. And so they actually learn something that can apply to their day-to-day life while solving this digital escape room, which is a really cool experience. We also, me and many other partners, have been doing in-home scavenger hunts. So we run Zoom to be their creative room, but you get on your phone and you download an app, and we have missions, and they're all achievable missions within your home or within walking distance, so that we can follow what we believe, at least the currently safe parameters of social distancing. But it's really engaging. So for like an hour, you try and complete as many missions as possible. You can compete against people all around the world, right? Last year, I actually ran a program in 4 different states, in 4 different time zones, all from my house here in Seattle. I did it last year, and now people have actually had 2,000 teams competing simultaneously.
2,000?
2,000. Oh, wait. This is but this is not a team building thing, but this is just fun. Me and my, one of my very good friends bought me a ticket. Debbie Ann Schneider in New York bought me a ticket to something called Daybreakers, and it was a 2,000 person Saturday morning Zoom party.
Wow.
We dressed up in beach clothes, people around the country. They were showing Zoom windows from around the country. They had a professional DJ. They had a professional workout artist. They did spoken word poetry at the end. The funny part, talk about events, Tracy, right? We're humans. We love events.
Right, we do, yeah.
The 2 hours, right? People didn't log off.
Wow.
They were there. They were on for 2 more hours just talking to people, right?
That's amazing.
It's possible.
It is. And my friend Jill Redman, I know her from Atlanta, but she now lives in Pennsylvania, and she connected me to this Facebook group And it's views from around the world. I'll put it in there.
Yes, I'm a
And
member of that group. Yeah.
people take pictures from their window and to show, and they put the time of day and what city they are in and say, this is my room from Italy or from the North Pole. I haven't seen anybody from the North Pole, but somebody showed what's the big green lights in the sky. Oh, that's really bad.
The Aurora Borealis. I'll take
Yes.
green lights in the sky for 200.
Yes, that. So they were showing that from their window in Alaska. I'm like, and I think it's the coolest thing because people are just showing who they are and sunset, sunrise, their beautiful gardens, and it connects you to so many people from around the world. And I think
Quarantine
that's really
Karaoke. Cool. So if you haven't gone to Facebook, go to Quarantine Karaoke. Over 500,000 members. It was an accident of a bar that can't open anymore that used to host karaoke. And there's so many in-person personal performances that people are doing on that karaoke. I actually run my own karaoke on Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Everyone's invited. It's free. And
Obviously.
it is, it's that's the creativity. That's the touching part. And many of the people I've actually seen, she was greatly affected on like week 2. She was isolated. She was depressed. And the quarantine karaoke is the one thing that was getting her through to sing her favorite song. She cried through the song. I cried watching her.
Oh, you're going to make me cry just talking about it. Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, this has really given a lot of people, made them more creative and made them think about different things in a variety of different ways. And who would have thought, and I joke because Facebook, this is what Facebook was designed to do in some fashion, is to connect people. Social. And yes, exactly, social. And sharing the view from your window is just one of those ways, or singing your favorite song, or yeah.
I'm going to give one more, Tracy. This is the greatest thing I saw. In Daybreakers, they ask you to bring a picture of somebody you want to be with, but you can't because of coronavirus.
Okay.
And three-quarters through the way of the party, right? Everyone starts holding up pictures, right? I put a picture up of my mom who passed away 3 years ago. And then you see on the screen literally hundreds of pictures of dogs and pets and uncles and aunts and kids and moms and all people that they can't see or touch because of coronavirus. I mean, it was the most amazing, touching thing that I've seen on video conference. Wow.
And that's a great team, because that's a great way to bring people together. And and wouldn't it be so cool that if I put my picture up and you're like, oh my God, he's my neighbor, right?
Yes.
Or that would be so cool, especially with the group that large, 2,000 people. There's got to be that kind of connection, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That it's just so amazing. And just a variety of different things. The grandma who needed some more beer, and Coors delivered the beer to her front door.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah,
this is how good the media is, right?
Yeah.
And I love that we're getting positive stories and to balance off all the other stuff.
Right. Yeah, the people that they're Zoom bombing. Okay, so what do you want to leave? We've got 4 minutes. So how do people find out about you, and where to engage you for doing virtual, and when we get back to meeting, because we will meet again in person? How do they find out more about you? And then what's one last tip that you want to leave everybody with about virtual team building or team building?
Well, thank you for that. I offer free classes at multiple times. Right now, they're mostly aligned on Wednesday. And it's geoteaming.com/virtual team building, geoteaming.com/virtual team building. No spaces. Oh, look it up. It's on the Twitch. I already put it on the Twitter like 20 minutes ago, for crying out loud. But I donate 1 day of my time now, Tracy, all of Wednesday, to conduct 4 sessions. And I've had people from Saudi Arabia, Ireland, Hungary, Georgia, the country.
Wow.
And I've actually had somebody from Slovenia take my stuff, and she now has actually presented twice in Slovenia virtual team building, and she thought it wasn't possible when she started, and that's the stuff that lights me up. I want to leave you with this, right? I think we were talking about the future of workplace culture, especially with team. I'm going to leave you with this really abstract concept that I hope that you got during this while watching this. It's not things I can teach or talk about explicitly, but I want to have a conversation around it. And that's this: the ability to create psychological safety in this container
Mm-hmm.
is critical for your virtual teams. Google proved it with Aristotle, their 18-month research project for teams. One of their top 5 factors was psychological safety. And so one of the ways that you create it here is with this, with inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways is you create it is with engagement. One of the ways you can do it is with the leadership training you have, like being slightly vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying, I've been making a lot of mistakes, right? Even though with my 35 years of practice, I make a mistake at least every day here. And making people feel okay in this environment. It's weird. It's like 350 million of us travel to a brand new planet, Tracy.
That's such a cool analogy. I love that. And it is, because we are all in these little boxes, and and that's all we have of each other.
And the good part is some of us were astronauts and we went here anywhere between 1 and 35 years ago. But some of us are just getting off the spaceship and going, WTH, right? And the rest of us, right, if we can be guides, right, then we can find the future of teams. And what I believe you're going to see, Tracy, we're humans. We adapt. We adapt. We will figure it out. And what you're going to see is some extraordinarily examples of teamwork virtually. And that's what I think is going to be the most important thing in terms of the future of workplace culture. All right. And some of the statistics say, even if we do open up, let's say we mysteriously make a vaccine. And if I make it, that'd be so cool. Cause I think I'd be pretty valuable at that point. But if not, I think people are going to stay in this thing. You know, everyone's gotten a secondary value: lunch with their loved ones, right? Lunch with their kids, not traveling, not sleeping in some weird bed. You know, even though some people miss that, but I think they're going to see the values. I've been practicing virtual, even with my teammates. I have a video conference from 3 years ago where my teammates, who they're 20, 30 minutes away, we met online to save the hour of commute. And that's the future. The future is, how can we be great here? How can we be awesome here? How can we make our lives better?
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for your time, John.
Aww.
So this is John Chen from Seattle, Washington, Geoteaming. So go check him out. Hopefully you've been tweeting with us with Lead Culture. We're going to be doing that all day long with all of our speakers as well. And the conference or the summit is today and tomorrow. So make sure that you check in with each one of those different sessions, talking about a variety of different ways around workplace culture and leadership. Thank you for tuning in.